3 ball from CG43. They're in front.
This is flat out ridiculous.
From a beautiful left hand, in and out finish, the old-fashioned way.
Newell gets to the basket with one to come. From there again. You have got to be kidding me. Tyson step, wraps it up.
Hello everybody, welcome back. NBL Pocket Podcast, recording this on the 24th of the 2nd, 2025. It's 11 p.m. on the East Coast. It's 8 o'clock p.m. on the West Coast. Joe Core here. I've got Andrew Canyon. Andrew, how are you?
I am very well. It has been a long time since we've done this.
Whew. Yeah, we were talking about 6 weeks.
More, man. More.
I
More
could
since
easily
more,
bring up the podcast feed and find out, but I'm not going to. I'd rather just
that's-
suppose and guess.
That's for our listeners to do. They do the hard work. We just sit here and talk crap in front of a microphone. We don't do any research.
What are we talking about? We're going to look back at the awards quickly. We're going to look forward to the finals and give some predictions, and then just a few hot topics from the NBL, like the Tasmania sale, a few dissections of some teams that are now out of the competition, and but mainly this is going to be a real barbershop chat because lots happened in the break.
Yeah.
Lots worth talking about. I want to ask you this.
If I'd known it was going to be a barbershop chat, like I actually got my hair cut 3 days ago. So I could
would've been
have actually
amazing.
sat here in the podcast and got my hair cut.
Maybe send me a photograph of just the hairline and the sideburns, and maybe that can be the podcast art for the episode. That could be fun. That requires that little bit of effort to upload a picture, which I don't know if I'll follow through
I
on.
don't know.
But I'll think about it.
But I don't have the Ben. I don't have the Ben Henshaw haircut. So,
oh man,
you know,
the Lloyd Christmas. Not a flattering photograph. We like him as a player, hairdresser or a hair model, not so much. I want to ask you this question, Kenny. When was the last time, and I bring this up because I actually saw a guy with an Adelaide 36ers shirt walking around Sydney, and it absolutely took the top of my head off. When was the last time you spoke to someone who you don't normally talk to about the NBL? When was the last time you spoke to someone about the NBL who you don't normally speak to? When was that, and when was that, if ever?
Oh my goodness, that's a So I mean, I talked to you on the group chat with a few other friends.
Yep. We have a group chat. This is true.
But no, and there's the Discord, of course. But if you're talking actually face-to-face conversation with
where you
a
bumped into
human,
someone like, oh, you're wearing a Wildcats, or oh, Kings jersey, or Melbourne. Oh, yeah, you watch the NBL? Yeah, okay, all right, see you, pal. Good to see you. No,
I don't. I can't recall the last time I've done it. Yeah, it's been a long time. And here in Perth, you don't really get a diversity of crowd. If you do see anybody wearing merch, it's Wildcats merch.
Or it's a player for one of the visiting teams. And they get a coffee or something,
Yeah. But that's right. But no, in terms of talking about the league to somebody who isn't like, I can't recall.
The reason
maybe I'm a bad brand ambassador, Joe.
Well, I mean, you can only plug yourself in where is available. I have actually bumped into people who say like, oh, yeah, I took in an NBL match. I was actually on the train. I overheard someone, a kid really, would have been late teens, being like, oh, I'm getting in the NBL. And my head almost came off. I was like, wow, okay. And I wanted to talk to the kid and say, hey, download the pod.
There's this thing called Patreon, mate. It's $5.
Give a shit. I was just going to grab him by the ankles and shake out his pocket money. You know? All right, let's talk about this. The awards night. Did you watch it? I want your care factor out of 10. And were there any errors?
Yep. No, I did not watch it.
Did you follow it on Twitter? Sorry.
No. I just looked at the results like the next day, I think.
Sure.
Care factor, was that the next thing?
Care factor out of 10.
3 out of 10, because it seemed like it was kind of pretty by the numbers. There were no real, not huge shock. There was maybe one shock.
And then I was going to ask you, errors or shocks? What is that shock for you?
So I think for me, Taron Armstrong not really getting any mention anywhere in the competition.
Well, I can't even remember what his award, or those sort of like, you know, there's like the bright star, then there's like the dimly lit star, then there's like the lower, you know, every fucking shade of tungsten gets an award. What award did he win, and why do you care, and what was the area in your mind?
So I think he should have maybe been in the next gen award, because he's the one with the bright future. He's the Australian with a really bright future, heading into the NBA, opportunity to really be the next point guard, the next Josh Giddey, the next LaMelo Ball, if you want to call, take credit for him as the NBL. I think he's kind of in that mold, and I'm surprised that the NBL, let's face it, they're kind of they're thinking of recognizing the players, but they're also thinking of recognizing and big noting their own self-importance. And it feels like they may have missed an opportunity there.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. I had a bone to pick with, honestly, it didn't factor into my thinking. All those kind of rookie awards, I'm like, the eligibility is so peculiar, I kind of just put it out of my mind. I don't really, it just doesn't factor into my thinking. So I can only agree with you on that. You seem to have a pretty well-formed thought. I had an issue with Brisbane's GM as the executive of the year.
Oh, yeah, okay.
They finished out of the finals, and then they sacked their coach. And as the award was given out, there'd been reports of Brisbane are going into the war room to discuss their failed season, which failed is probably too strong a word, but if you don't make the finals, calling it a failed season is not unfair at all. I think that was News Corp, Mick Randall and Matt Logue. So they weren't over the top.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I don't just want to dump, I want to pump. Who would I have given the award to? And I'm like, I don't know. I really don't.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. And it's like, I guess because he kind of moved them to Boondall. That to me is why, I mean, without knowing the details. I didn't actually look at the criteria
of the award. I think it is to do with like how many cups of Coke you sell at halftime. I don't know actually what the criteria is. I just thought it was what executive made the best player moves to improve their team. And if that's the case, it's not him.
Yeah, see, I don't see it as a player team thing. I see it as a real business reward. Like, who made the best who achieved the best business outcomes in the past season. That's how I interpret it, because I see it less as like that GM. It's not like the GM of player movement or anything. It's like executive of the year. So I'm like, who cut the best business deal? But this is also at the Brisbane Bullets. Now, they moved to Boondall, but didn't they also have basically an entire season with no sponsor?
Yeah.
So
I thought that's like square one, right? Get a major sponsor.
Yeah. So that maybe that so controversial take. But you're right. I can't think of anybody. Who would you have given it to? Maybe actually no. I do know who I would have given it to.
Fire away.
Grant Kelly.
Okay. You know what?
Because
it sounds ridiculous when you said it, but that team dominated 3/4 of the NBL headlines this year with Harrell, the crowd invasion, and then pretty much that stadium looked to be rocking.
Yeah. So it's not Grant Kelly, is it? Because he's the owner. I should be giving it to the that chump who fired Scott Ninnis.
That's the one. That's the one. Whose
name,
the
Razorback
important
guy.
enough to remember, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's Mr. or Doctor, not important enough to remember, but yeah, him.
Yep.
Good answer. I'll say this. If the criteria was player movement to improve the team, I think it should have gone to the Hawks. Pretty boring pick because they finished first.
Yeah.
But no one was looking at Trey Cowell as an NBL first-team player. We saw him at Southeast Melbourne. He was kind of hurt, didn't do a great deal. Went to Adelaide, better, but not like, oh, wow, that's the guy who's going to be part of a NBL first-team backcourt. And he was terrific this year. He defended, he scored, he was so under control. He is one of the 4 best guards in the NBL, and I didn't see it. I saw him being good, not that good. So that was my pick. And as far as executive of the year, I'll definitely give my worst executive of the year. I think for that RAC finals blunder, it's got to go to Mark Arena. You lost $100,000 on the deal or something?
Yeah. That didn't go well. That was an entire schmozzle.
Because you were at Challenge, right?
Yes, I was fortunate.
Give me a vibe of that. That would have been actually kind of cool for you, one of the few who went or got in. But what was it like?
Yeah, so the way that they sold it, because there was a whole debacle with the ticketing, and they gave away, instead of giving a unique code to each member, they just tried to use one code for every member. And so, of course, that got shared on the internet straight away, so they had to pull ticket sales.
Oh, so non-members were using the code?
Correct, yeah, because it was just one single code. I would have thought
that's a pretty obvious don't do that. That was pretty obvious that people would do that, right?
Yeah, so it was just a stuff up, right? And then it was like, then I think people tried to buy it. It said there were no tickets available because they were using the code that they were issued that had been revoked. Oh. Yeah, it was just a total disaster, right? And then I think people just went, stuff it.
Stuff it. It's the first final anyway, right?
Yeah, and tickets were expensive. So I actually friend of the show, Nick Tan, actually, friend of the show.
Friend in life.
Somehow he bought tickets, but he ended up with an extra one. I think the system failed him as well, and he was like, "I've bought 3 tickets and only wanted 2."
Man.
So he's like, "Can you come along?" So I paid $150 for a ticket to go to the old Challenge Stadium.
That's a
But you know
ticket.
what? I love that stadium so much, Joe.
There's no such thing as a bad seat, Challenge Stadium. For those who are listening who have not been, the thing is oh man, it's a snug fit, isn't it?
It's boutique, shall we say? But I've just got so many fond memories because I went and watched the Wildcats when nobody gave a damn about basketball way back when.
You get 3.5, and it was a sellout.
Yeah. And there's something about that stadium that wasn't sold out on this game, but because you're so close, you feel like you're not spectating the game. It feels like you're involved in the game.
It's a banger. It's a great stadium.
Yeah, it's really great. And even better for my seats, it was literally first row. So it's not courtside. I was behind the score bench and behind the Southeast Melbourne.
Oh, you would have been getting hit by sweat.
Oh, it was so much fun. We were heckling the players and...
Did you get a head turn? Come on, give me.
Yeah.
Goods.
So in pregame, I told my voice was breaking out of me that night as well. I was having a hard time getting volume. I was cracking all over the place for some reason. But I told Geordie.
Puberty. It's a little.
Yeah,
late,
yeah,
but it's happening,
I think
yeah.
so. You're
finally becoming a man. Welcome to the club.
I told Geordie Hunter that I wanted to read a copy of his book.
Does he have a book?
He's writing a book. Yeah.
Geordie Hunter and Collector, maybe. It's a band, all right. What's the book about?
It's the Holy Grail.
Door Frames, My Mortal Enemy by Geordie Hunter.
But I heard on an NBL podcast of all things that he's writing a book. So I think he's trying to turn it into a TV screenplay or something as well.
Good on
So
him.
look, he's one of my favorite players.
I think he had a job opportunity at to be a comedy writer somewhere.
I think he strikes me as a bright guy, and I don't know,
Yeah.
well, you
Tall
do know
guys
this,
are
Joe.
always kind of lugubrious, and
I'm into the all intelligence NBL 5. That's important to me. So it was good little banter, and then through the game.
When you write that book, Jordan Hunter, I like to read, and also shout out to supposedly a sponsor of the pod, Booktopia.
They went bankrupt, mate.
They came back. They tried to build some warehouse in Sydney, an automated warehouse in Sydney, totally backfired. But someone came in at the last minute to save them. But maybe they are bankrupt again. I haven't checked that in a long time. But Geordie Hunter, when you write that book, send me a link. I'll actually pay for the book too. I'll buy it. But if it's bad, I'm going to slag you off on Twitter. Sorry.
Yeah. And through the game, we were heckling all the players as they came on and off the court. It was good fun. And big shout out to Josh King, the coach.
Oh, yeah.
He engaged in the banter and was having a bit of fun with us back during the game. And he won me over. He was legend, that guy.
I don't know the man, and I've never heckled him.
It is Josh, isn't it? I said Josh King, but that is correct, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, I think so. I think you're right. Yeah. He, talk about a hell of a coaching job. Turn that team around. They're 0-5 under Mike Kelly, and he comes in and they're in the finals without Walton, who may play but didn't play in a couple of the lead-up games. Incredible.
Yeah.
Coach of the Year candidate, almost. Who won Coach of the Year? I can't even remember.
Tatum.
Oh, Tatum, of course, yeah. You had to give it to him. Speaking of Tatum, let's go on to finals picks.
All right.
Can I get first four? Which is the better series? Melbourne, Perth, or Illawarra, Southeast Melbourne? From an entertainment standpoint.
Melbourne, Perth.
For sure. That's actually going to be really... I saw that and I was like, ooh, I'm going to clear some time on a Thursday night for that one.
Yep.
I'm going to watch that live.
Yeah, I'm going to go to a mate's house and we're going to have a few beers and watch it.
Watch party. All right.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Let's go... For that reason, let's save that one. Illawarra, Southeast Melbourne, are you predicting an upset or stay the course with Illawarra?
Nah, Illawarra will get it.
Walton
Probably in straight sets.
Needle for you at all?
Nah, I don't think so. Because then you've got to reintegrate him. And Foxwell is playing really well. So, and Ben Eyre had a good game the other night in that terrible, weird game against Adelaide. I think it might upset things a little bit.
You're kind of playing the John Casey card. John Casey often says, like, basketball, when a player goes out, it's not as impactful as other sports, which I think is counterintuitive to what I normally think. But I've heard John Casey on a couple of times just say when a player goes down in basketball, particularly a starter, guys seem to just check in better. I don't know what he's basing that off, but you know what his mathematics are like.
Oh, for
You know,
sure.
he's
I'm
crazy.
sure he has stats.
It has some. So you're taking that right. I think they desperately need Walton. I looked at that game where they beat Adelaide. And to go down like that, I just think Walton's an absolute pro. I just love that guy's game. I think he's so patient and capable. But I'm still predicting Illawarra to win for sure. You were saying though.
Yeah, I think Illawarra have too many weapons. They beat you a guard player. They beat you in the post. Like they've just got too many options. The bench is strong. I just think Southeast Melbourne probably a player or two short off the bench. Really.
Agreed.
You know, they need everybody to fire on the same night, and I just don't have the confidence that they have enough to get it done. I think
agreed.
Illawarra grind them out.
I think you're probably right in maybe a gentleman's sweep, but I don't see it being there won't be a deciding game. I wouldn't have thought.
No.
Melbourne Perth,
But
this is the blue ribbon event. You happy to move to them?
Yeah. This is much more intriguing.
What do you want to do? Do you want to give your picks or your reasoning first?
I'll give my pick.
Do it.
So I'm gonna say Perth will get it 2-1.
Wow. I think the opposite. I want to hear your reasoning.
Okay, I think Perth have an ability to score like no other team in the league.
Agreed.
And Melbourne, I just don't know if Melbourne can go with them. And I know Melbourne are excellent defensively. Schueller is the best Bryce Cotton stopper that there is in the league. Mm-hmm. But I just think that Melbourne are maybe just a bit too aged to get through 3 games and to win 2 of them.
I disagree. I like your rationale. I like the. Mm-hmm. My worry is this: no team is engineered as well as Melbourne to stop Bryce Cotton, and you can't stop him, but you can actually limit him, and they limit him by, I'll be honest, going outside the rules and scragging him, and no 2 players get away with that more than Schueller number 1 and Delvedova probably just a fraction behind him number 2 in the entire league, and maybe in the world sphere of basketball. No players go more outside the lines with it making it look like they're within the lines. I saw it firsthand when Nick Tan and I went and saw Sydney play Melbourne in Sydney, and Adams is not Cotton. I'm not pretending that, but the way they just crushed him, Ely in particular, crushed him. I was like, oh, that takes Cotton down from 40 points at a high clip to high 20s at a 35 to 45%, and that's enough to beat the Wildcats, I think. Yeah. And then also, I like Melbourne inside. I just think that Lee, Jack White, the patience, the willingness to hit the offensive glass. I think Perth are going to get decimated on the offensive rebounds. I think that kills a team like Perth. It kills their speed, their momentum, their scoring. So for that reason, I'm picking Melbourne. And the home court, they're my reasons. Any rebuttal?
Okay. Yeah, let me fire back at you. So I think the way Christian Doolittle is playing these days, I think he can control Jack White. And if Keanu Pinder plays anything close to the game that he put on against Southeast Melbourne, then now Lee he'll get Lee in foul trouble. That'll eliminate him. And then Rob Lowe will come in, and I just think Pinder's too fast, too nimble for him. So I think that's a mismatch waiting to happen there. So I just feel like Perth have enough weird X factor just going to blow you off the court. We'll get a guy.
I like what you're saying, but
yeah, I feel like Cotton will become a distributor, and then you get Windler hitting threes, Ben Henschel popping up, Pepper. I just think they've got too many weapons, and I know that you're meant to win with defense, but I just think Perth's going to come out and just score a lot of points.
And the home court doesn't worry at all. What's Perth's record away from home? While you talk about that, I'll look it up.
Oh, this season, I'm not sure. But look, I think that Perth play some of their best games at Melbourne. I think that stadium is a nice enough stadium that I don't feel like it's intimidating. I think it's just a good stadium to play at. So I'm not too fazed by that from their perspective. Now, the thing you've got Dean Vickerman coaching up against John Riley. And John Riley, to his credit, has shown improvement this season, but he is still nowhere near the coach that Dean Vickerman is.
Yeah, I worry about that too.
So
Perth have a roster, man. Like Ty Webster will always up the pace. I like him as a player, especially when he's under control.
yes, yeah,
And Cotton and Windler and Doolittle, and then Pinder, you kind of ride the hot hand, whether he's got it or not, or just a consistent play. It's gonna be a good series, but I'm still picking Melbourne. I think the home court. That's a long way to travel for Perth, and they're crisscrossing the country. One more leg than Melbourne. I think it matters.
yeah. Okay.
All right, so let's say, you're thinking it's going to be Perth and Illawarra in a final. Supposing that happens, give me a pick.
Illawarra.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they've just been too solid this year. I can't say now all of a sudden that they would lose after they've put in such a good performance over a season.
Even if Melbourne made it, you don't see either of Melbourne or Perth beating Illawarra in a final.
No.
Who do you think would be the better matchup if either one were to make it?
I think
who would be the more likelier team to beat Illawarra? Is what I mean.
Probably Melbourne.
Yeah, agreed.
But I think Perth Illawarra would be a way more fun series to watch.
Oh, the NBL, if it kind of cares about entertainment factor, you'd want to stack the deck for Perth. I mean, I think you just always want to stack. From an entertainment standpoint, you always want to stack the deck against Melbourne. They are stodgy. Their offense comes to grinding 4-minute-long halts where they just cannot score, and they're clumsy, and they're old, and they're weird. And then they just grind you down on defense. And the best players never just go off against Melbourne, which is always what we want to see. I actually think... So obviously, I think Melbourne will beat Perth, and for that reason, I think Melbourne. Before I give my pick of Melbourne over Illawarra, Melbourne v Illawarra will be discipline versus confidence. That is what those two teams stand by. Illawarra play with amazing confidence. Tyler Harvey has licensed. Kel, all these guys. Frolling's jumping out of his skin. Like those guys all just love to play the role they've got. That's confidence. Whereas Melbourne are disciplined. Dean Vickerman yelping. They have fun when they play, but it's like crocodile tears. It's like they enjoy the winning factor. I don't know if their play is like embellishing all their skills and they're flourishing but they do it well. So for that reason, Illawarra would have the home court too. Wow, I can't believe I'm saying this. I kind of think Melbourne would win.
Jeez.
Just it's like the alligator versus the tortoise. I just think the tortoise shell would just, and it'd be so ugly to watch, be despicable, where you've got this team just wanting to take flight and play with confidence and fun, just being mugged and dragged down by Melbourne. I would pick Melbourne to beat Illawarra.
Wow.
I think you're relying on a few guys from Illawarra who I'm like, what do you get out of Lee?
You don't trust them.
Finals? I don't trust them as much as boy. The veterancy of Melbourne really highlights. What do you think? Do you think there's any? You're still not convinced by what I've said?
Nah, I'm not convinced. It's Illawarra. Illawarra all the way.
That crummy little stadium, like they're going to win it. I know. I'm sorry, Illawarra. That just that little.
I know that the only thing I think that crummy little stadium is kind of like the Challenge Stadium at Perth. So let them have it. Let them have their fun. I think what makes that stadium worse is the camera angle. If they were able to pitch
really
that camera, they could pitch that camera angle lower, and have less of that, looking from the ceiling approach. It would be a lot better.
You can read the entire, or not read, but you can see the entire top strip of the backboard. At the very, very top of it. I'm like, why do I need to see that on a television? Anyway, let's move on. There are picks, people. Definitely jump on Twitter and let us know what you think. We'll put up a tweet that's got that summarised who we think is going to win. Are Melbourne favourites? Let me just have a look at the betting.
Probably.
No. Illawarra favourites $2.30, Melbourne $3.30, Perth $4.50, South East Melbourne $7.
Wow.
Man, Perth are right there. Wow, Perth favourites. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Illawarra $2.30, Melbourne $3.30, Perth $4.50.
Yeah.
South East Melbourne $7. Sorry about that. Let's move on. Let's jump away from the finals. There are picks. Jump on Discord. Jump on Twitter. Get at us. This next Stars thing, we got to talk about this.
Sure.
When you heard the news that the NBL was considering, and they've been considering it for a while, this is the first time it's kind of been put in print and kind of really floated out there. but they have been considering for a while a team made up wholly and solely of Next Stars. I want to ask you a two-pronged question off from that. Number one, what do you think of the idea of a second team in Sydney, be it Next Stars or nay? And then second part of that question is, what do you think about a team of under 21s competing in the NBL? What do you think?
Okay. If you're going to have a whole team loaded up with young kids, I hadn't heard that. I didn't realize it was a whole team. That's ridiculous. Give me a
It is
break.
absurd.
That's just, can you imagine? Oh my gosh. It'd be a disaster. Like, can you imagine them on a road trip? Jeez.
Oh, you think it'd be a disaster from an on-court and off-court or on-court product?
Yeah, well, on court it would be a disaster. Then off court they'd all hit the clubs and like, look out! Like a whole team of young guys. You know that's not good. I mean,
on court would be the bigger disaster. I think off court, these kids are nerds, man. They'd just be playing 2K or whatever. But maybe. But I just think on court. But then I say this like a team always has to finish last. Like Cairns were a dead spot on the roster this year. New Zealand to a lesser degree. But you know, and Cairns have been a bit of a dead spot the last couple of years. So why not make it this team of young kids who, you know, you get the NBA buyout money?
Yeah. I don't love it.
It seems just like in the NBL where there's always one team. And what did Cairns win this year? 8 games. I mean, a team of Next Stars is winning like 3 or 4.
Tops. Yeah.
And they'll have moments, but
they just get brutalized. Can you imagine the post play? Oh man, little skinny guys.
Just brutalized. Then I want to ask you this question, stemming from that. Is it a white flag from the NBL where they've gone, instead of building a team in, say, Canberra or Darwin, and just building a professional basketball team that competes and improves the parity of your league, the NBL's thinking, how can we get a sugar hit? How can we make money? You know, we're never going to be a part of, we're never going to have that really strong national competition like AFL or BBL.
Yeah.
Like they have teams in cities with pro players. They're always thinking on the fringes of like, how can we kind of make a fast buck and this Next Stars and, you know, the league will be worse for it, but we'll make a better cash. Is it a bit of a white flag from the league that we're in year 50 of the NBL, we're never going to have that seat at the table like the AFL and those other things. We're going to start making money on the fringes. Am I being too harsh, or what do you think?
No, I don't think you're being too harsh. I think it is a gimmick. I'm getting tired of all the NBL gimmicks. You know, they come and they go, and it's like, what is this thing? You know, we have NFT playing cards. What happened to those gimmicks?
That was a gimmick. That was.
What happened to the homie comfort pillow or whatever? There's too many.
I've got mine right here. Speak for yourself.
I missed out.
Money well spent.
Official comfort partner of the NBL. No, it's like you don't.
And you
yeah, I want to see.
Hey, this is made from like game worn jerseys underneath. What's going on there?
I just want to see good. I just want to see good basketball. I want to see. Give me another team. Give another bunch of guys jobs. You know, like Let's just boost the depth of the league. Let's give it an opportunity for another coach to be employed. That's all I want. And I think all these little gimmicks and attempts is just a bit sad. So I hope it doesn't really play out that way.
And I'd say this: what's the stronger case study? The success of LaMelo Ball and a few Next Stars that have really popped. We can't deny that. They haven't been fun to watch on court, or maybe a little bit at times, but on the whole, I think 6 out of 10. And then that one case study where they've probably made good money on that NBA buyout money, or is the better case study that they should be turning their focus to, a team like the Jack Jumpers. The Jack Jumpers are now a huge part of the NBL conversation. That's a top 4 kind of strength of character team that, you can set your watch to Perth, Sydney and Melbourne, and now Tasmania and Adelaide. They're the teams that are like, the rest are kind of like Brisbane, you never quite know where they're going to be in New Zealand. Whatever. But those, Tasmania are there. They've won a title, they've been a good... and I feel like the NBL's like looking, and that's where this thing comes down to the thing of there's 2 factors to the NBL. There's what's good for the NBL and HQ in Melbourne and LK, that entity, and then there's what's good for the clubs, and the disconnect between the two is, I think, widening, and the Next Stars is where HQ can really control. And also, like, to set the team in Sydney. Oh, can I ask you that question? A second team in Sydney, do you think that makes sense? There's a city of 7 million people. The Kings are what they are. Do you think a second team here makes sense over any other capital city? Oh, a big city?
I mean, I can see the temptation to do it. Like it is, that's that many people. You think surely it can support another team, but we've been here, done that.
Yeah,
like
exactly right.
It didn't work. And what's changed? I don't know. The league's generally more popular, but has the stadium situation changed? Like, where would you put them? Like, you still got Sydney Kings playing out of West Sydney, basically, right?
Exactly. Oh, but basically, ask Nick Tan what it was like getting to that stadium. Nightmare.
So, yeah, and there's, from what I know, I don't know of any other stadium options that have changed in the last 10 or 15 years. So you just got the same situation. It's just becomes silly. You've got a second team. You're playing out of the same stadium. Like, this is not the Lakers and the Clippers. You know,
guys who come and go. Did you hear it was going to be called the X-Stars, where they were going to get like?
That can't.
What player?
Is that seriously?
What player is going to go? Yeah, I want to go for a team named X. Like, we were something, and now we're trapped. I mean, I don't know if that was the actual name floated, but or even in the conversation.
I hope that was just a gag.
That was just like. Not maybe a gag, or just like this is an easy way to explain it in a headline. So I'm not judging. I'm not judging the writing of that. But here's where it changes, and here's why a team in Sydney kind of makes sense, especially of Next Stars. They get funneled straight in to the territory of arguably the most powerful agent in basketball in Australia, Lighthouse.
The Mastodon.
Mulder. He's just got them all in his backyard, and he's like, "Here we go," you know. And you know his track record is amazing. You know, Taron Armstrong was floundering, now on a two-way. Jump ship from another agent to him. So it doesn't make sense to me. I think if the NBL just went, we are going to pull the fucking pokey arm on this, it doesn't. It actually makes kind of commercial sense on paper. And if it happened, I think it's a cynical cash grab, but I couldn't fault them for it. I'm not, we're not deluded to making some cash out of this thing. Anyway.
Speaking of which, I'm still waiting for Daniel Maldon to represent me.
I know, right?
Just in my general life. I'm not a basketball player. I'm not a professional player, but I just need some help with my general negotiation. You don't want to go buy a car? Just bring him down. He seems to get shit done.
That's true. I think I've got a really powerful claim against like a vending machine. Put the money in the other day, and the thing didn't come out. I don't know if that's really his field of expertise, but I have a grievance, and
that's the worst. Yeah. That is the worst feeling, getting ripped off a vending machine.
Because what are you going to do? You're going to double up? You're going to put more money in? That's great. You're going to shake the thing like a psycho? They got you both ways, man. It's cruel. It's cruel.
Move on. Yeah.
Probability Cotton returns to the NBL and NBL 26. I'm going to answer this one first. I think the probability is less than 50%.
I agree. I was thinking about 30% that he would return.
Yeah,
I don't think he would go to. I don't think he'd go to any other club. Although I don't think he's loving the Perth management at the moment. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think he's in that point where he's just going to chase some cash, and I can't blame him.
No, he'd be what, 32?
Yeah, I think so. So why would you not? If I had a chance to go play overseas, I'd do it.
And he's
I wish him all the
a
best.
young enough family that it's like you can have. The kids haven't started school in earnest. So it's like you've got a couple of years where you can kind of,
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. And then he comes back after a couple of years, comes back to the NBL, settles down, farewell tour. Bang.
Brilliant career, money made. Agreed. So we're both below 50%.
Yeah.
Season health check. We've had the regular season. We've had the awards. Can you give me... I don't know whether to do grades or a health check. I don't know what the scale would be if it's a health check. Go grade. Like, how would you grade the year?
Probably B minus.
Why
C.
B minus?
C. There's less parity. Well, maybe that's a bit rough. There's less parity this year.
There's a great parity in the top four. I really feel like this top four. I don't think South East Melbourne are super legit, but maybe. But those three, Melbourne, Perth, Illawarra, they are hard to pick from, and that's better than years past.
And look, we've been spoiled. Like the last couple of years, it's come down to like the final game of the your final round before you know who's in, and that looked like it was tracking for this year, and then it kind of fizzled out.
Did a bit.
But so, and I don't know. There's something I don't think apart from Adelaide, I don't feel like there was, and Bryce Cotton, I don't feel like there were as many must-watch players this year, and I don't know. I can't even point to hard evidence on that. Like if you gave me a roster list,
I'll point to hard
2 or
evidence.
3 seasons.
I think when Casey Prather makes NBL first or second team, second.
I can't remember now.
Whatever, one of those two. When Casey Prather's in one of your top 10 in the league, and you know, and in one of the top 5 wings in the NBL. Good player. I don't want to put him down, but that's a guy who his prime was in his past. And if that's the top of your league, like there was a time when, bless his cotton socks, some of the imports of the past, and I mean, I don't want to say like in the 90s, but we can make that conversation. Some of those imports would beat the brains out of that NBL first team, you know, and the locals as well. And, you know, a lot of locals are out of the league. So that's where I'd put hard evidence where you go, you know, Prather off those massive injuries and had a great year, but a bit iffy. Yeah, I agree. There hasn't been, other than Cotton, there hasn't. And when Melbourne are just so boring. And also Tassie not being good.
Yeah.
They're a huge character in the league. And Roth turned, man. I wanted to get your thoughts on that. I'm sorry to direct you elsewhere, but you were always like league dad.
Yeah.
Father Christmas. And he was a jerk this year. Like, we like him, but he was a jerk.
Yeah, he took a heel turn.
Totally.
You know, like in wrestling parlance. Yeah, he became the bad guy. I kind of like it for a change-up.
A whiner and a jerk. Yeah.
Look, so I think that was good. But now I want to see. I want to see the redemption arc. So next year I want to see him. I want to see him come back, and I want him like he's reflected on his attitude, and I want to see him reinvigorated for one last go around.
Also, semi-related. Remember when like Bogut and others were like, McVeigh, book it. He'll be back at Christmas. Great fucking intel that was.
When's Bogut ever got anything right? It's like what? Yeah, clock's right twice a day.
Yeah. So you got to wear your failures. We've had some stinkers on here.
Oh, at least we own it.
Yeah.
Jeez.
We sing our own praises, but we throw some shit as well. Okay. What have we got here? Moving down the list. My health grade. Yeah, similar. Hasn't been those. Yeah. FIBA break. What is this FIBA break?
That was your grade. Yeah, similar. Moving on.
Whatever Canyon said. Yeah, come on. FIBA break. We take 2 weeks off to allow the AFL season to start, attract all attention. Like, what is this? And then we go to Thailand and beat them by 5,000 points. What the fuck is going on? And then also the awards night. Who is doing this scheduling? It's just so amateur sometimes. It drives me nuts.
It's so weird. Is there a requirement that the NBL has to respect FIBA?
And this is like, I like Larry, and Larry will move really fast and decisively on some things. And then something that is so obvious, he either A, drags his feet or feels like his hands are cuffed. I'm like, what is going on? Sorry, I'm sucking the mic. What do you think?
Yeah, and then like you look at it beforehand as well. They kind of rushed that first round of playoffs. It was like season ends playoffs on Tuesday. Yeah, and I was like, but then suddenly at FIBA break, like maybe you'd be better off just shuffling things around again. So the playoff finishes, then or the season finishes, then you get your FIBA break, and then away you go in finals. Like I don't know.
Why is it's just momentum killing and schedule suicide? I've never understood. I've never heard the league come out and say, "Oh, it's mandatory." And if it is mandatory, like, I don't care. Change it. This is bad for your code. It's bad for the product. Change it. Like they have other stuff on.
Like, did anybody watch those Boomers games? I don't even know if they were broadcast.
If you watched them, if you're out there, you sick perverts. Who are you? Stop listening right now. Don't you ever come looking for me. Moving on. Justin Schueller fired in Brisbane. I was a bit surprised. Were you surprised?
Look, I'm going to miss the man boobs. He had the best man boobs in the league.
Yeah, sure.
Did I just say that out loud?
Yeah. Hey,
okay.
Shoot from the hip. As a coach.
Look, he seemed fine. Like he never took my breath away. I thought he just seemed a bit insipid.
Funnily enough, he didn't take your breath away, but looking at him, he was often short of breath, being a little husky.
Like he might have been an excellent coach. I really don't know. But I never looked at him and went, "Ooh, there's a coach." Like
I looked at that roster and thought, what is his team? Like that guy Bateman, who had a really slow start to the year and then got hurt. And then Prather kind of came on semi-late. And no one was like, oh, wow, they've got Casey Prather, set your watch to a finals appearance. And they still won, 12 games or something? Yeah. 12 games, which is, well below 50%. But, who were they? And like Tasmania, Roth kept his job. He won one more game. That roster was better than Brisbane. And Adelaide, superstar roster, won one more game than this club. I'm like, what the? I don't know. I like Schueller.
Who are we to argue with the executive of the year, though?
You know what? You make a very, very fine point, Kenny.
You know, but yeah, I feel it's sad. I think what's going to happen, they're going to go overseas. They're going to get an American coach or whatever. Because that is the fashion.
Is good.
Yeah.
I can't compare. Like Tatum, Kelly.
Yep.
Sorry, not Kelly. King. Certainly not Kelly. King. Others.
There's Chet. Wells. Oh, I tell you what. If we could get Chet back, because you know that's some of the chat. There's rumors that Chet would come back. You know we want that.
Chet has entered the chat. It's just a shame no one calls him Chet, but us.
Well, he knows. He knows this.
He knows. He damn well knows.
Man, and I would love it. That would motivate me to do another bloody season of NBL podcast.
I know we made fun of him a lot, but according to the scoreboard, the record was good.
Yeah,
he had a hell of a pretty good roster in Sydney. He won't get that kind of roster in Brisbane. Let's stay with Buford and the Kings. We're at 40 minutes. We're running a bit long. Sorry. Kings dissection. We got to do this.
Yep.
So Sydney, big team. I thought they were going to be a lot better, and they got bounced. The NBL changes its lingo all the time. Was it finals? Was it not finals? Who gives a shit? They're not in the. They're not at the good end of things. Let's break it down. I'm going to say these names, and you say yes or no as to whether they're a person at that club for the future. Just do you think they're a good person to have around? Does that make sense? Brian Gorge.
No.
Ooh. Xavier Cooks after what's happened.
Snow.
That's funny. See, that's why you tune in, people. I didn't see that coming. That's great. Adams. Jalen Adams.
No.
Cam Oliver.
No.
Far out. Okay, let's go to the top. The only one I'd say yes to is
Kwat Noi.
Okay, Noi I'd say yes to. Man,
yes to
total
Kwat
flamethrower.
Yeah.
Who else is even worth noting?
Liafa, no.
No.
Sean Bruce,
no.
Yeah, why not? He's part of the furniture.
Money would have to be. Anyway, and that's it. That's really the only guys who got minutes, and they should have done better than what they did.
They should have, yeah.
Anyway, let's go to Brian Gordon.
Pepe got injured, so.
Good point. He was not going to move the needle, though.
Nah. He's a unit, but he's not going to move the needle.
I'll ask this question: if they had Cooks, would they have beaten Adelaide?
Probably.
Yeah. But it didn't matter. It just didn't feel like they were just exhaling. They weren't happy.
Yeah.
I saw them play live, and they hated playing. Adams in particular.
I've got to say, I was surprised they brought Adams back. Because he seemed like
the
bit of a
marriage with Gorgon didn't make sense.
No, he seemed like he was a bit of a problem child his second time around last time. That was with Abdel Fattah, right?
That's right. And that was the whole thing. Like Adams kind of picks his training schedule, and that's where Glover was like, "Come on, man, we're struggling this season. Like, put in some work." And they went loggerheads, and Abdel Fattah chose one over the other. That's the rumor I've heard, and just split the locker room in two between the imports, Fattah included. And Gorgon just didn't know how to walk the line. And let's talk about Brian Gorgon. Are you one of this camp who thinks he's past it or not?
Yeah, I think he's past it. I think he's too old. I think, and I'm on record of saying this earlier on. While, it's been my now, and everybody says, "Oh, he's the greatest." Yeah, greatest. Yeah, he is the greatest. But he's also generationally disconnected from these kids who are playing the game now, and I just can't. They will never say it, and they'll say the right thing. It'll be like, "Oh, we're learning so much from Gorgon," and maybe they are. But at the same time, you're thinking, "Yeah, I'm being coached by my grandpa." Like he just lacks dynamism. He kind of looks a bit confused on the sidelines sometimes. He doesn't know the rules. So what is this guy doing?
I've heard that he doesn't do his own subs.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
I've heard that from credible people. That can't be true, can it?
Like, what? I just don't see the point of him at this time. I think he needs to hang him up.
He's got 2 years at good money. He's not doing that. He's there. I actually don't think he's that. He definitely let guys get away with a lot more, and that started the Olympics. I mean, when you pick Joe Ingles over Thibault, something ain't right. You're thinking with your heart, not your head.
Yeah.
So it started there, and it carried on to this year. Yeah, he had no control over Adams. Adams was just reckless. And when Adams was going to careen out of a game, he just had no way of like kicking him up the arse and getting him back into it.
Oliver hated him.
Oliver just hate those two. Just the game I saw were just so bad and irritable, and just hated being on the court with everyone. He
drove Cooks to drugs. Like, jeez, how bad must it have been?
I'll say this: who on that? I just don't think. I'm not down on Gorgon yet. I'm not out. I'm down on Gorgon. I'm not out on Gorgon, and the reason why is Adams was up and down like a yo-yo. Oliver was up and down like a yo-yo. The only way you could... I saw articles like, Oliver, he's making the best of a bad situation. The only way you could think that way is if you're sitting courtside at the behest or on tickets on the owner's dime, because I saw the complete opposite thing. But Adams was up and down like a yo-yo. Oliver up and down like a yo-yo. Liafa, they needed so much more out of him. He had a bad year. And he had a really bad year.
Was a shock. Did he make a bucket the whole season?
I don't think in his final game he went scoreless. He was just stopping it. So I'm looking at Gorgon going, what did he have to dependably look at game after game? So the roster kind of turned on him, and Noy was the only one who stepped up. In fairness, Noy put up more 20 point games than not.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I'm not down. I'm not out on Gorgon yet. Adams and Oliver, do you think there's any chance they bring those two back?
Nah.
Do
Why
you
would you?
Do you think they're done in the NBL? Like Oliver now, this is his second bad year. Adams as well. This is your second year where you've been part of a losing team.
I think so. I think the only hope... I think Oliver's cooked. I don't see him coming back to any team. Maybe you could send Adams to like Cairns,
where he's just got total... But I just don't... I think he's at a point, entering his late 20s, where it's like, what are you going to do? You're going to keep chasing the NBA? Or are you going to become an international pro? And I don't think Gorgon was ever able to say, like, hey, you're not Bryce Cotton. You're not NBA caliber. Let's make your money here. Let's make something. Give me buy-in. And he's still trying to put one foot in front of one foot in either camp. And I think Oliver a little bit the same. And it's just killing their career and game. Killing it.
Yeah.
And Gorgon was never able to quite get through them. Cooks, what do you think's going to happen there?
Cooks, well, interesting. I think Sydney will stand by him if they can. Like, who knows?
If they can.
This is it's gone to Asada or whatever, right? Which this is kind of like goes outside the NBL's control here.
Totally, that's an international governing
But you would
body.
also have to think there'd be some stipulation in a contract, whereas if you're bringing the game into disrepute or whatever, that the Kings could can the contract.
Oh, for sure.
And if you're an owner or a manager, you're like, yeah, hell, we'll void that contract, but maybe we'll bring you back, but we can't pay you the same amount of money.
Yeah, it actually may be a positive. I think the one thing is it's not performance enhancing, right? That's what Asada is.
No.
So they're not going to get him on that grounds. That brings the game into greater disrepute than just you had a sort of over the top Saturday night. I'll say this: Moldo, good in a crisis. I mean, does anyone talk about Josh Giddey anymore? And his no, buried, man. What you do is you just don't say anything. That's the Lighthouse way. They just turn the lights out, man. You just let it slide, and then people forget, and they're back in business. Moving on, I've just got written here. It's a little bit Gen Z, but seriously, ellipses. Fuck you, Adelaide. I don't know how else to phrase this. You had these star players. And then you lay a fucking egg like that game. Sorry for the language. Did you watch that game?
I watched that game.
This team, man.
It was incredible. They are so much fun to watch. I love Adelaide.
To go down like that, to choke so bad, and then Harold's like, that guy's the problem. Who the fuck is this guy? He is one of a kind. I don't love him. I don't hate him. I'm just so intrigued by him.
DJ's not playing defense. It's all his fault.
In the courtside interview, like, are you mental? One of a kind.
Amazing. But yeah, they go from like Davis hitting that over half court shot, which is beautiful, amazing shot. They're skipping off the court, top of the world. What the hell happened at halftime?
How could you not go? What kind of Davis, good player and everything, but what kind of point guard can't go? We're up 20. We just have to score every third time down the floor to kind of. and to not be able to do that and not
just
do it in the way they did it, Ken, just coming down and casting up shit. I remember they just come down, dribble out the clock, make a few little probes, get nothing, and then like Lat Main was casting it up from quarter court. I was like, what a way to go. Oh man, and they could have done it because they were dangerous. They could be playing.
Oh, they could have won the whole thing. Like
they
seriously.
really could have, and instead,
what a schizophrenic team. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I enjoyed it.
I really did enjoy it. Yeah.
I want everybody back. I want the whole cast back next year. I want to see it again.
Isn't it just the most Adelaide year? You still have a losing season by a margin. Like they lost. They were 3 games under 500. That's a lot in the NBL.
Do you reckon? Okay.
Oh God.
Sorry to cut you off.
Please,
do you reckon Scott Nennis would have done a better job with this roster?
Oh, wow.
You put Nennis in charge. I know it's just really hard question to answer. Nennis controlling.
I mean,
Harold?
they were
What do you reckon?
I'll say this. Players hating a coach, not always a bad thing. Nothing galvanizes 12 guys like that. Our boss sucks, right?
Yeah.
Nothing galvanizes. I don't think it quite had that relationship. So, consistency plays in the NBL. So for that reason, I thought he was going into year 2. He knew his locals and what he could get from them. That creates stability. So my answer is yes. I think he would have done better. I mean, their team was just so... And Davis was just... There was just no rain on him. There was no conversation between sideline and player. Not even clock management, score management. Nothing. So, yeah, dude. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think Ninnis would have. I don't know. Part of me thinks he would have been, chewed up and spat out by the egos on that team. But then a part of me thinks, I think he might have just been able to get a bit more buy-in and get everybody feeling good about themselves.
He would have got local buy-in, and that's something. I think he would have been able to turn to the locals like, I don't even know this guys, but some of our imports are completely crazy. But we know what they're going to do. We know when they're going to shoot it, try and get off the backboard. I feel like he could have had that conversation, and that is of merit and value, and that's my answer.
One thing I want to say about Adelaide, Nick Marshall, leave. You've been on that team for, I don't know, it feels like a decade, and
Where's the career going?
You never get court time, mate.
And that kid's a flamethrower. I like his game.
You need to go to Cairns. I'm sending everybody to Cairns.
Yeah, just all go there. Because he could be DJ Vasiljevic, and he just hasn't got the opportunity.
He just never gets a crack.
All right, Ken. Last topic, because we're at 52 minutes, and then we're getting out of here. Sale of the Jack Jumpers. Who on earth is Altor? That's what I've got written in the notes here. Did you see this sale? Did you see who bought it? Do you care at all?
I saw it, and it was like private equity. I'm always a bit sketchy when private equity gets involved because the job of private equity is to hollow something out, profit from it, and then get rid of it again. Mm-hmm. It seems like it was a property play by Larry Kesselman, as we've always talked about.
I think that's just that you can see that a mile away. But sorry, I'm interrupting. Go on.
You can't take the property developer out of his mindset. That's
how he makes his money. Yeah, totally
correct. So I have no idea who Altor is. It seems like some sort of corporation that doesn't really give a shit about the product. They're just there to maximize profits in the short term.
I want to read you this. Now, tell me, is this the most AI-generated bio in the history of AI-generated bios? Okay,
Jeez,
so you go to Altor Capital Limited or whatever.
Yeah.
We're alternative asset specialists. Altor Capital is an alternative asset manager with an investment philosophy focused on protecting the downside and positioning for the upside. We grow our investors' wealth through investment strategies designed to deliver a superior risk-return profile compared to traditional asset classes. It's actually not as bad as when I first read it. I don't know what any of that means in non-jargon.
So who's not going to say that? Yes, we aim to deliver a below-par performance for our investors.
Yeah, exactly. We want high risk, low return. We're going to do some crazy stuff with your money and hope it turns out. But I just thought we protect the downside, positioning for the upside. Yeah, it's a pretty cheap looking website, but that's not to say. I will say I'm not a subscriber to The Australian, but you can look at this article. Confusion over Propel Executive Chair's funding role. Propel Holdings is attempting to downplay the role its executive chairman, Ben Harrison, holds at its major funder, Altor Capital, where he owns a major stake. I haven't actually read the article, just the headline. I'm not going to pay for these papers. But essentially what it is like sort of one, he's a chairperson of one business without saying he's the major investor into that business of which he already owns, or his wife does, and he's a proxy or some shit like that. So,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, every business has got sort of a slightly dodgy dealing. So I'm not actually casting total doom and gloom on everything. But again, this is sort of like, you know, the NBL never sells its, remember Sansoni, like the NBL never sells its teams to like Baker's Delight or Coke Incorporated. It's always someone that's on the fringe. You're like, what?
Firepower.
Yeah, that came back up in a few news circles. All right, Kenyon, I think that is everything unless you've got something else to canvas. We're just under an hour.
No, I think that's probably enough from us. People who ask, do you think there's any subscribers to this podcast left? I have no idea. We haven't really. We're
really going to find out. No, yeah. Apologies to everyone. We just haven't done. We still enjoy the league. It's just busy. I really don't think there's any fault of the league or the games. Like it's just like
we're just old men. We're just old men at this point.
It's true.
Yeah,
we're
just
doing our
grumpy
best,
old bloody men.
But we do enjoy the games are fun. And also, this league, I went to the game live and half the crowd was under 15. I was like, that's what it's for, you know. And the NBL, I don't want to tell the NBL its content strategy, but and if they do steal ideas, again, I love a consultancy fee, but I'll give this one for free because it's rather altruistic. Make content for young kids, you know, like sort of 10 to 15. A kid's show based around that. That's your demographic. That's who's there. And they don't do that already. They're aiming for the higher audience. Teenagers still get around it, but aim for that even younger audience. I don't know how you do it. It's not my job to work out. Put up a content strategy and go for it. That's what I'd be doing. That's all I got to add. That's it.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Well,
right,
on that note, right, cool. We're done. Right.
Good night, everyone. Enjoy the finals. Okay. And we may do another episode. 50-50 at best.
Jeez. Really solid. Keep that Patreon money coming.
Yeah. The patrons, if you'd log out now of being a patron, there is no hard feelings whatsoever.
You just do
world.
it. Do it.
Just
we have not earned your money.
Cut the cord.
Yeah.
It's theft.
Yep.
We're committing a theft in your face. All right. Thanks, everyone. NBL Pocket Pod. Do get us on Twitter. During the finals, I'll be watching and tweeting on there. Always fun. And the Discord, I haven't been in there all season, but Canyon, you're in there, right?
I'm always there. Daily.
So you want Twitter? That's me. Unless, of course, I say something horrible that causes an incident, then it was Canyon. Or maybe I was hacked. And then if you want Canyon, go Discord predominantly. Gang, and if you're an absolute if you're a cowboy with your cash, sign up to the Patreon. I dare you. If you like wasting money, all right. Do it.
Hey, maybe we can get Altor Capital.
Yeah, Altor.
I got a deal for you.
You want to talk about low risk, high reward? Actually, low risk, but just no return. No, maybe a podcast every 3 months. Altor, let's do business. Thanks,
but we'll protect your downside.
That's for sure. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.